Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our program, Communicate in Chinese. I'm your host, Mark Rosewell, otherwise known as Dashan. Over the next 40 lessons, we'll be showing you the kind of language used in many everyday situations, like shopping or dining out. Maybe you've invited friends over to your house. Maybe you're asking directions or taking a bus, reserving a hotel. Maybe you've gone to a sporting event. What kind of language should you use in these situations? Well, we'll be showing you. We'll also be talking about the cultural and social background involved in these situations, so I'm sure you'll find the program not only entertaining but also very useful. Each lesson is divided into 3 episodes that are broadcast through the week. After the end of every 9 lessons, we'll be having a major review to cover all of the material to date. Well, what's the first thing we should talk about? How about greetings? What are the kinds of things you should say when you meet someone for the very first time? The next few short dialogues should give us a good idea. Let's take a look.
早上好，刘经理。
哦，你好，小张。您好，刘经理。早上好，小李。
你好。
下午好，小江。最近忙吗？
忙，太忙了。
是啊，我也太忙了，该考试了。
再见。
再见。
Now let's look at the dialogues line by line. In the first dialogue, Liu Ming is arriving at the office. One of the employees greets him by saying, 早上好, Liu Jingli. 早上好, good morning. Liu Jingli. Now Liu would be his surname. Jingli is his title, manager. Liu Jingli, manager Liu. Notice for superiors or elders, it's more polite to address them using their full title rather than their name. Liu Ming responds, 你好, Xiao Zhang. 你好, hello. Xiao Zhang means little Zhang, so Zhang would be this person's surname. By calling him little Zhang, Liu Ming indicates that not only are they familiar, but Zhang is also in a junior position. Xiao Zhang.
早上好，刘经理。
哦，你好，小张。
The next employee says, 您好, Liu Jingli. 您好 is the polite form of 你好. It also just means hello. 您好, Liu Jingli. Hello, Manager Liu. Liu says, 早上好, good morning. 早上好, Xiao Li. Now this person's surname would be Li. Xiao Li is little Li. So again, Liu Ming is indicating that he's familiar with this person and the person is in a junior position. 早上好, Xiao Li.
您好，刘经理。早上好，小李。
In the afternoon, Xiaojiang runs into a classmate at school. Xiaojiang says, 你好. Now we know that there are 4 tones in Chinese. For instance, Han, first tone. Han, second tone. Han, third tone. Han, fourth tone. In this instance, ni and hao are both third tone. But when we have 2 third tones together, we change the first one to second tone. It sounds much better that way. So we don't say ni hao, we say ni hao. Ni changes into second tone. Ni hao. The classmate says, 下午好, good afternoon. 下午好, 小江. 最近忙吗? Have you been busy lately? 最近忙吗?
你好。
下午好，小江。最近忙吗？
Xiaojiang says, 忙, busy. For emphasis, he adds, 忙, 太忙了. Busy, too busy. The classmate agrees. 是啊, you're right. Or yes, 是啊, 我也太忙了. I'm also too busy. 该考试了. Now here, 该 indicates time. It's time for. So, 该考试了. It's time for tests. It's exam time. 该考试了. No wonder they're so busy.
太忙了。
是啊，我也太忙了， 该考试了。
再见。
再见。
Now let's talk a little bit about some of the cultural background with regard to greetings in China. Standard greetings in China are much the same as anywhere else in the world. Hello is simply 你好. 您好 is a more polite form. In English, we'd still say hello, but 您好 is considered more polite and respectful. 你好吗 is a question. How are you? How do you do? Or to be more polite, we could say 您好吗? 欢迎欢迎 is just a way of expressing welcome. Literally means welcome. 欢迎欢迎. Now, when people are more familiar with each other in China, when they meet, they might ask a rhetorical question. And perhaps some of the questions that they ask would seem strange to a foreign visitor or to a Westerner. For instance, someone might ask you, 上哪儿去? Where are you going? Well, they don't mean to interrogate you or anything, and you don't have to be specific when you answer. It's just a rhetorical question. You could say, 我出去走一走. I'm going out for a walk. Or, for instance, they might ask a question to which the answer is quite obvious, and they obviously know the answer already. For instance, if they've seen that you've just come home from work, they might ask, 下班了? Are you just back from work? Or if they see in the morning that you've just got up, they might say, 起来了? Are you just up? Of course, they know the answer already. The reason for asking a question like this is simply to break the ice and to start off a conversation. Now let's look at some of the vocabulary from the lesson.
我、
你、
您、
看、
忙、
忙 is another very commonly used word. It means busy. You'll see in our dialogues, it's often used when people first meet each other and are engaging in small talk.
最近忙吗？这几天特别忙。
经理、
好、
好, simply translated, means good, but it's very commonly used in many different ways in Chinese. For instance, it can be used as an adjective or as an adverb.
最近好吗？电影很好看。
最近、
考试、
看、
Now that we've gone through the dialogues and looked at the vocabulary, it's time to look at some of the common expressions and sentence patterns used in greeting.
早上好，刘经理。
早上好。
早上好，
哦，你好，小张。
你好。
你好，
您好，刘经理。
您好。
您好，
你好。
下午好，小江。
下午好。
下午好，
最近忙吗？
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 忙，太忙了。
太忙了。
太忙了。
你好。
你好，
您好。
您好，
早上好。
早上好。
下午好。
下午好。
最近忙吗？
最近忙吗？
不太忙。
不太忙。
很忙。
很忙。
太忙了。
太忙了。
早上好，刘经理。
哦，你好，小张。您好，刘经理。早上好，小李。
你好。
下午好，小江。最近忙吗？
忙，太忙了。
是啊，我也太忙了，该考试了。
再见。
再见。
Okay, now let's do some substitution practice. 该考试了。该 followed by a verb followed by 了 indicates it's time to do something. In this case, the 该 indicates it's time to do something. 该考试了. It's exam time. It's time to take an exam. Let's see some substitutions.
该考试了。
该吃饭了。
该开会了。
该起床了。
该上班了。
太忙了. Too busy. 太 means too much or excessive. Whatever you have too much of, you put between the 太 and the 了. 太忙了. I'm too busy. Let's try some substitutions.
太忙了。
太热了。
太冷了。
太棒了。
太酷了。
早上好，刘经理。
哦，你好，小张。您好，刘经理。早上好，小李。
你好。
下午好，小江。最近忙吗？
忙，太忙了。
是啊，我也太忙了，该考试了。
Okay, that's it for today's lesson. We've been talking about greetings and some of the different greetings that you might use depending on different situations or different relationships between the people who are meeting. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we hope that you'll come back next time. Today we learned how to say 你好. Now it's time to learn how to say 再见. Goodbye. If you have any questions or comments about our show, please don't hesitate to write. You can reach us at CCTV 9 English Channel, China Central Television, 11 Fuxing Road, Beijing 100859, China. You can also telephone us at 8610-6857-5305, or you could fax us at 8610-6857-4712. You can always send us an email also at ae45@mail.cctv.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our program, Communicate in Chinese. I'm your host, Mark Rosewell, otherwise known as Dashan. In our last episode, we talked about the most common form of greeting, ni hao, or its more polite form, nin hao. But of course, there are many ways that people greet each other, whether they're meeting for the first time or whether they're old friends meeting again and engaging in small talk. As for small talk, what do people talk about? What kind of questions and subjects are appropriate and what are inappropriate? As well, the way you might talk to an elder is different from the way you might talk to someone who's very young. For instance, we see in the dialogues that the way Xiaojiang greets her teacher is very different from the way she greets one of her classmates. But first, let's go back to the dialogues we showed you last episode and run through them once more.
早上好，刘经理。
哦，你好，小张。您好，刘经理。早上好，小李。
你好，
下午好，小江，最近忙吗？
忙，太忙了。
是啊，我也太忙了，该考试了。
再见。
再见。
李老师，下班了。
哦，小江，你好吗？吃饭了吗？
我很好，还没吃呢。李老师，最近忙吗？
还好，不太忙。你要去哪儿，小江？
我去买方便面，食堂的饭，嗨。
我们一起走吧。
老师好，老师。
你们好。
In this dialogue, Xiaojiang runs into his teacher in the schoolyard. Xiaojiang says, 李老师. Li would be his teacher's surname. 李老师 is a polite form of addressing the teacher by calling her Teacher Li, 李老师. 下班了? Xiaojiang asks a rhetorical question. Are you just off from work? 下班了. In this instance, 下 is used as a verb, as in to get off work. 下班了. Are you just off work?
李老师，下班了。
You notice that the teacher doesn't directly answer this question. She says, 小江，你好吗? Little Jiang. So his surname is Jiang. She calls him 小江. 你好吗? By adding ma to the end, she's turning the phrase 你好, hello, into a question. 你好吗? How are you?
李老师，下班了。
哦，小江，你好吗？
And she asks another question. 你吃了吗? Have you eaten yet? 你吃了吗?
哦，小江，你好吗？吃饭了吗？
Xiaojiang says, 我很好. Now the word 很 by itself means very, but in this instance it doesn't indicate degree at all. 我很好 doesn't mean I'm very good. It just means I'm fine. 我很好. 还没吃呢. I haven't eaten yet. 还没吃呢. So Xiaojiang answers both of the teacher's questions.
你好吗？吃饭了吗？
我很好，还没吃呢。
Then he asks one of his own. 李老师，最近忙吗? Teacher Li, have you been busy lately? The teacher says, 还好, not bad. 不太忙, not very busy.
我很好，还没吃呢。李老师，最近忙吗？
还好，不太忙。
And then she asks a question of her own. 你要去哪儿, 小江? Where are you going, 小江?
还好，不太忙。你要去哪儿，小江？
Xiaojiang says, 我去买方便面. I'm going to buy some instant noodles. 方便 means convenient. 方便面, instant noodles. 我去买方便面. 食堂的饭. The food in the cafeteria. 食堂的饭. Well, Xiaojiang never finishes this sentence, so I guess the food in the cafeteria speaks for itself.
你要去哪儿，小江？
我去买方便面，食堂的饭，嗨。
The teacher says, 我们一起走吧. Let's go together. 我们一起走吧.
我去买方便面，食堂的饭，嗨。
我们一起走吧。
When they meet some other students, the students say, 老师好. Hello, teacher. And the teacher says, 你们好. The addition of 们 indicates plural. 你好 would be hello to a single person. 你们好 to a group of people.
我们一起走吧。
老师好，老师好。
你们好。
Now let's look at some of the cultural issues involved with the subject of greeting. Or sometimes they might ask a question where the answer honestly is irrelevant. For instance, someone might say, 忙吗? Are you busy? Well, you could say, 我很忙. I'm very busy. Or you could say, 我不太忙. I'm not very busy. The answer really doesn't matter. The same goes for the question, 吃了吗? Have you eaten yet? You could say, 吃了. I've eaten. 我还没吃呢. I haven't eaten yet. It really doesn't matter what you say. Either answer is fine. Now there's one greeting that's very special in China, and that comes during the holiday season of Chunjie, or Spring Festival, Chinese New Year. And there's a special gesture like this. You say, 过年好, and that means Happy New Year. 过年好. Now let's look at some of the vocabulary from the lesson.
老师，
下班，
还
没
要
饭，
哪儿？
哪儿 means where. We could also say 哪里, but the expression 哪儿 is more common, especially in northern China. The R ending is very common in northern China, especially in the Beijing area, and especially for nouns.
你上哪儿去？这个周末去哪儿玩儿？
去
买
方便面，
食堂，
我们
一起
走，
你们
Now that we've gone through the dialogues and looked at the vocabulary, it's time to look at some of the common expressions and sentence patterns used in greeting.
李老师，下班了。
下班了。
下班了。
哦，小江，你好吗？
你好吗？
你好吗？
吃饭了吗？
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 老师好。
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 你好吗？
你好吗？
您好吗？
您好吗？
老师好，
老师好，
同学们好，
同学们好，
下班了，
下班了，
吃饭了吗？
吃饭了吗？
李老师，下班了。
哦，小江，你好吗？吃饭了吗？
我很好，还没吃呢。李老师，最近忙吗？
还好，不太忙。你要去哪儿，小江？
我去买方便面，食堂的饭，嗨，
我们一起走吧。
老师好，老师。
你们好。
Okay, now let's do some substitution practice. 下班了 means to get off work. 下 in this instance means either to go down or to get off or even to disembark, to get out of a car, for instance. Let's see how it's used in substitution.
下班了，
下课了，
下车了，
我们一起走吧 Let's go together. 我们一起 us together, followed by a verb, followed by ba. The ba indicates a suggestion. It's a way of softening the tone. 我们一起走吧 Let's go together. It's a suggestion. Let's try some other substitutions.
我们一起走吧。
我们吃饭吧。
我们一起玩吧。
我们一起去吧。
我们一起唱歌吧。
早上好，刘经理。
哦，你好，小张。您好，刘经理。早上好，小李。
你好。
下午好，小江。最近忙吗？
忙，太忙了。
是啊，我也太忙了，该考试了。
再见。
再见。
李老师，下班了。
哦，小江，你好吗？吃饭了吗？
我很好，还没吃呢。李老师，最近忙吗？
还好，不太忙。你要去哪儿，小江？
我去买方便面，食堂的饭，嗨，
我们一起走吧。
老师好，老师。
你们好。
Okay, that's it for today's lesson. We've been talking about greetings and some of the different greetings that you might use depending on different situations or different relationships between the people who are meeting. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we hope that you'll come back next time. Today we learned how to say 你好. Now it's time to learn how to say 再见. Goodbye. If you have any questions or comments about our show, please don't hesitate to write. You can reach us at CCTV 9 English Channel, China Central Television, 11 Fuxing Road, Beijing 100859, China. You can also telephone us at 8610-6857-5305, or you could fax us at 8610-6857-4712. You can always send us an email also at ae45@mail.cctv.com. Hello and welcome back to Communicate in Chinese. I'm your host, Mark Rosewell, otherwise known as Dashan. Last week we were learning about greetings. We learned commonly used greetings like 你好, hello, and 早上好, good morning. We also learned some of the things that people talk about when they meet. For instance, asking questions like 你最近忙吗? Have you been busy lately? Or 你吃了吗? Have you eaten yet? But we didn't talk about introductions. Well, that's the subject for this week's lesson. How should you introduce yourself? Or how can you get more information about the person that you're being introduced to? I think there are many options here, of course. It will depend a lot on the situation. For instance, is it a formal or an informal situation? And the relationships involved. Are they personal or business relationships? Of course, there are many social customs involved and many different types of language that you can use in this situation. The next couple of situational dialogues will show us a few of those. Let's take a look.
您好，我是刘明，这是我的名片。
您就是刘明，您好，见到您很高兴。
您好，请问您贵姓？
免贵姓张，我叫张晓峰。
您好，张先生。
就叫我小峰吧。
好。
老王，你好啊！
哎，老刘，你好，你好。
你好，老王，您退休后还好吗？
还好，还好。你呢？
挺好的。哎，老王，这是谁啊？是您孙子吗？
不，这是我外孙儿。
哦，
这是刘叔叔。
刘叔叔好。
你好。
Now let's look at the dialogues line by line. In this dialogue, Liu Ming is meeting some people at a conference. As he's meeting them for the first time, he uses the polite form 您好, hello. He gives a very simple self-introduction. 我是刘明, I'm Liu Ming. But at the same time, he gives them his name card. They've obviously heard of him before because they say 您就是刘明, so you are Liu Ming.